Hi, I'm Euge Valovirta, and this is how to dial in a great guitar sound. So, yes indeed, what is a great guitar sound? I guess we all have our own opinions about it. My philosophy, the way I think, is that every amp, plugin, whatever amp-like pedal you're using, they have great sound in them, like the sweet spot that they like to live. And when I dial in a sound, I always try to find those sweet spots with the controls the amp has. The two most important things for a great guitar sound is your left and your right hand. Pickups, they pick up what you play, then it goes to amplifier and the amplifier amplifies what you play. If you suck, your sound will suck. If you play good, you most likely will sound good. People think that when you have the same gear that, your idols or the most expensive gear, you will sound good. No. I sound myself no matter what gear I use. Obviously there's favorite amps of mine which I think produces my sound the best. So you have to sound good without any amplifiers, anything, just by you have to get that vibe. Then when it's good like this, it will be good when it comes out 1,000 times louder. The second most important thing, guitar. No matter if it's considered as good, bad, expensive, cheap, if it's good for you, you enjoy playing it, then it's a good guitar. 3. The combination of amplifier and cabinet and speakers inside it and the microphones you're miking to get the sound. Or amplifier, reactive load box, dummy load, and the impulse responses you're using. So what is an impulse response? Well, it's basically capture of a combination of cabinet, speaker, and microphones. I'm using the reactive load because 100 watt tube amp, quite loud, it would be insane. And these work just amazingly good. Those were the 3 most important things, especially your hands, you. The pickups, well, they pick up what you play. They're, of course, important, but to me, pickups are more like how they pick up my sound, not actually how they sound. And I just like how EMG, especially 81 and 85, or 57 or 66, how they pick up my sound. So that's why I use them. I use other pickups too, but these are my favorites. Then it's obviously pedals you can shape your tone, add some textures or something, but that's just the cream on top, in my opinion. First, I think it's important to understand what the different knobs on an amplifier, what they actually do and what part of the amp and your sound they affect. So, let's take this, one of my all-time favorite amps, Marshall JCM800. This is the Zakk Wylde signature. Very simple amp. 1 channel, 6 knobs. Okay, the preamp volume. On some amps it's labeled as gain. You know how much overdrive there is. Too much overdrive, the sound is mushy, the low end is and so on. Master, that controls the output level of the power amp section and the power tubes, how hot they are running and so on, and the overall volume. On tube amps, you usually have to crank it quite loud to get the best sound out of your amp, so that the tubes are really, the power tubes are like glowing and pumping the signal. Bass, middle and treble, they operate in the preamp section. With those knobs you control the sound what the preamp feeds into the power amp. So this bass control, middle, treble, they're just volume controls for preset values, whatever the amp designer has thought. The presence control operates in the amp's power amp section. I think of it as like when you're recording an album, you record that, then you mix that, and then it's the mastering where you set the final level. So with presence you dial in the amount of high frequencies that the power amp is sending to a cabinet or to a reactive load. And some amps like PV5150, they have a resonance control which does the same as presence but lower frequencies. You can really shape your tone, master your tone with the presence and resonance controls. So that was, in short, very simplified explanation of how amplifier works. So let's get into dialing the actual amp now that we know what the knobs are doing. How I dial an amp? I set everything to noon and the master to 0. Then I start to dial the master so that I can feel the power amp breathing, the tubes working, so the amp becomes alive. I'm using the SIR reactive load, and from here the signal goes to my audio interface, and I'm recording this to Logic. I'm just monitoring, listening myself with those two Genelec speakers with the moderate volume. Okay, let's dial in the master. And yes, one really important thing. When you dial a sound, don't use your eyes. Use your ears. We're gonna get back to that later. Okay. All right, so it's 6.5. Now they feel the amp breathing. Then I'll dial in the preamp, aka gain. So again, I'm trying to find the sweet spot where it's just like, you know, gainy enough, but so that it cleans and it doesn't get mushy. You know, 800 doesn't have that much gain, so it's 10. Okay, then I dial in the bass. Again, I'm trying to find the sweet spot where it's the sweet spot. It's 9. So full it was a little bit, but then just a little bit back. And then mids, again the sweet spot where there is mids, so that the sound has body, but not so much that it becomes boxy. Four and a half. Treble, again the sweet spot, so that there is treble but without it being harsh. I usually dial in that it's harsh and then a little bit back, then it's usually good. There, 6.5. And then the mastering, so to say, which With 800 it's the presence knob, and like I said, with the 5150 there's also a resonance knob, like on some other amps too. So we dial in the overall high frequencies, what the power amp is driving to the cabinet or to the reactive load. There, it's a hair over 7. Good, now we have a great basic tone which cleans up nicely. And then for high gain I always use a boost, an overdrive or EQ. No matter if the amp has tons of gain or not, I usually dial it like this so that it cleans, because too much gain, the low end just goes mushy. What I do is I use an overdrive, super overdrive. Boss ST1 is one of my favorites. Tube Screamers types overdrives in general that boosts the mid-range, so that the signal that the amp gets is mid-boosted. And when it's overdriving the mids, the low frequencies stays the same. So you're not adding a gain in there, because gain also means volume, and that means in the low frequencies just mushy sound. So without an overdrive, so you get this nice tight sound, because the overdrives the mid frequencies. Okay, and then also EQ works great. When you said it like it boosts the mids. Okay, so this is how I dial a sound, and like I said, I believe the amps, they have a place where they want to live. So this, I think, sounded really good with the active pickups. Les Paul, let me grab a Telecaster with passive low output antique pickups. So I have this Tokai Telecaster with Seymour Duncan Antique Series pickups. Let's see how this sounds with the settings that I dialed in with the ESP, with EMGs. It works. Maybe there's a little bit too much presence. When we add the overdrive, yeah. Yeah, so, alright, then let's get back to why don't use your eyes. Because many people have asked me what are my settings on this and that, and you know, I've seen some pictures, I have exactly the same, but my sound is completely different. Well, first, it's because I have my own hands, everybody has own hands. This is the most important thing. But also, the amps, even though they are the same, they could sound totally different. JCM800 with 6550 power tubes, Changsol JJ ECC83S preamp tubes. Same tubes on this one from 84. So I'll try to dial in similar, same sound as close as possible from this and what I have here. Everything in the middle, master 0. Okay, this one. Now let's dial this as loud. They're around the same. Master 6.5, master 2.5. Because this amp and this other from 85, they are extremely loud. I mean, let me demonstrate. 0. Nothing really happens after 5. Now it's full. So it's like 0 and then bam. So don't use your eyes, use your ears. And then let's dial in the gain. First, this one. Now they are about the same. So 7 on this one, the preamp. This one it's 10. Bass. Around the same. Well, it's 9 on both. Okay. Then mids. Okay. Around noon on both. Okay. Then treble, this one. Around the same. This is 6.5, this is 6. So now the sound is quite similar. Actually, this one is still louder, even though I need to maybe turn the master at 2. Well now, so the master is a hair above 2 on this one. Okay, and then let's turn on the overdrive and see how they sound. First this one. And as you hear, even though I tried to dial them, you know, the same, they're not. Basically same amp, same tubes, but they sound different. This is definitely louder and has more gain. It's a stock one. So yeah, that was my philosophy and how I dial a sound. So I'm trying to find the sweet spot on all the knobs where the amp wants to live. Hopefully this was informative and interesting, and hopefully this helps you to dial a better guitar sound and to understand the whole thing a little bit better. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Take care. All the best. Bye.